The answer, new research published in the online medical journal Open Heart, suggests it's not. Instead, doctors say the key to cutting heart disease and obesity lies in improving nutrition.
But Public Health England says calorie counting can still be useful. We'll try to clear up the confusion in a moment, but first we've been finding out what you think.
Calorie counting, I don't think it's for me. I always believe that you can, as long as you train beside what you eat, that you'll always maintain a good weight, so I don't think you need to do it.
For me, it's more about eating a balanced diet, of having like fruit and vegetables and carbs and all that kind of stuff. It's difficult to calorie count.
I know there's a lot of apps that you can use for calorie counting and measuring your heart rate and stuff when you're like working out, but for me it's not something I'd use.
I used to count calories a lot actually, and I think it is unhealthy because you just get into this rut where like you don't eat properly for the sake of counting calories, so I'd like eat unhealthy but not a lot.
I've just started at the gym, so I'm looking into Slimming World, which is counting calories.
Don't believe in counting calories. It's good and bad in all foods, isn't there?
Some mixed views there. Well, joining us now is Dr. Barbara Murray, who is a GP. And from our London studio, we're joined by the author of the report, Dr. Aseem Malhotra. Good morning to you both. Dr. Aseem, let me start with you. So you don't really think calorie counting is a good idea. Why is that?
Good morning. Well, I think the first message to say is don't fear fat. Fat is your friend, and what our analysis has shown, it's the quality of those calories that count. So for example, we know now there's very good evidence that if you had 150 calories per day from a sugary drink, typical of a can of cola for example, that significantly increases your risk of type 2 diabetes. Whereas if you had 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 500 calories, or a handful of nuts every day, that significantly reduces your risk of heart attack and stroke within a short space of time. And when you look at the overall evidence, actually what we find is that adopting a diet which is low in refined carbohydrates, that cuts out sugar and other starchy carbohydrates, but it's higher in fat from foods such as oily fish, nuts, olive oil, and has lots of vegetables as well, that actually is the best for weight, for health, for all ages and all sizes. And the degree of that benefit is really quite extraordinary. So, for example, in people who have a heart attack who adopt a high-fat Mediterranean diet, that's actually more powerful in reducing death rates than aspirin, statins, even heart stents. And that message needs to get across. It's about the quality of the calories, and actually a high-fat Mediterranean diet is probably one of the most powerful interventions for preventing many chronic diseases.
So, Dr. Barbara, when you're talking to a patient possibly comes in who has problems with their weight, where does calories come into, how useful is calorie counting in the equation?
Well, it's actually not something that we do advocate, to be perfectly honest. This sort of advice, having a good balanced diet, is part of our disease prevention chat with patients when we're talking about lifestyle advice. I think my concern would be that we don't want to convince people that having a Mediterranean diet will be better for them than taking the medication that they've been advised to take. And if you look at the British Heart Foundation website, for example, they specifically say it is the calories that count. But I have to agree that it's the quality of the calories. Never, ever would we advocate somebody to go on a faddy diet, just reducing the calories and not looking at the balance of the food that they're eating. The Mediterranean diet, we've known for a long time is quite beneficial for heart disease. But I think what we need to know whether we're talking about weight loss or heart disease. If I have a patient in front of me who's hugely obese and needs to have a knee replacement, he wants to be focused on reducing his weight, not being advised to go on a slow, long-term Mediterranean diet. He needs to have a quick fix, and he needs to understand how he can do that.
Dr. Malhotra, do you want to come back on that one?
Well, it's interesting. I'm glad the GP there has raised some very important points. I think actually to talk about the people who are obese or overweight, actually there's very good evidence now, long-term studies, even looked at diabetic patients who are overweight, and they counted calories, did more exercise over 13.5 years, several thousand people, actually did not impact upon their health outcomes, did not reduce their risk of heart attack or angina or new heart disease. So there's a big problem behind the weight loss industry, because actually it's very clear that people who rapidly lose weight and then regain it again has an adverse effect on your health. So even for weight loss, if you focus on a dietary pattern that concentrates on good nutrition and reduces refined carbs and sugar, actually that's going to be most beneficial even in the long term. We've got very good evidence to support that. The other thing I'd add as well, Charlie, which is really important, I'm not afraid to say this, the current dietary advice that advises low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet, and in fact even NHS Choices has an Eat Well plate, which says as part of a healthy, balanced diet includes the consumption of sugary drinks, cakes and biscuits, is a root cause of the obesity epidemic. We've got the dietary guidelines wrong, and in fact they've been wrong for decades. The sooner we reverse that, the sooner we're going to reverse all these problems we have at the moment facing the NHS in terms of type 2 diabetes and obesity.
OK, Dr Malhotra, Dr Murray, thank you both very much. We are going to be talking about this again in around an hour's time, so if you've got thoughts at home about what you make of what you just heard, do let us know. As I say, we'll be talking about this again in the next hour.
So much to get into on that topic. Well, it's just coming up to a 5 to 8 China. We've been talking about that this week, haven't we? It's been